Welcome to the Post Racing Podcast with Ron Robinson and Sean Travass. Post Racing, the site for winners.
Afternoon, Sean. Welcome back. Last
Happy
day
New
of
Year.
God for that.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's only the 31st of January, but this is our first one of 2025, so Happy New Year to all of you. Plenty of stuff to talk about, plenty of racing to look at, as well as the stories in the news. I've been looking forward to this. I think Ron has as well. So,
I tell you, yeah.
Shall we kick on? We're doing to start off with a little bit about whip abuse. Well, but it's not about abuse of the horses, is it, Rob?
No, it isn't.
It's about abuse of a fellow jockey. I'll let you go first because I actually know the person concerned. So I'll let you go first, and I'll top it up.
You probably might do, yeah.
Yeah.
A guy over there in South Africa called Gavin Lorena. Now, you probably know this bloke because he actually rode a double at the Shergar Cup in 2016. He's been around a while. He should know better. Anyway, coming into the final furlong in a race the other day, he suddenly stood up in his irons and whacked this other jockey called Jason Gates.
Yep.
He hit him 3 times on the back with his whip. And then obviously Jason Gates, he's not going to just sit there and say, oh, that was nice, up a bit. He's turned around, he's tried to give him some back, as you would do. And I'm thinking, what the heck's caused that? I'm still no wiser as to what actually caused the thing to happen. But then I read his apology. I read this Gavin Lorena's apology, and it looks just exactly like a solicitor's put it together. It was so well worded and so contrite, and it was absolutely perfect. But I'll bet you there's no love lost between those two guys.
Yeah, I can't pretend I know the story. I don't know Jason Gates. I know Gavin, not particularly well. You know him. He's a really nice bloke. Down to earth, straight as the day is long. I think that's why South African racing was quite so surprised by it all. I'd hazard a guess that there's more to this than meets the eye. But something's gone on behind the scenes in perhaps previous races, perhaps in the weighing room. That's all guesswork. I haven't got a clue. The one thing I would mention is he issued an apology for his actions on social media, and particularly issue an apology to Jason Gates if you read it.
Oh, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. It was done by a solicitor or somebody who's a very good wordsmith.
Yeah, it was an apology for his actions, an apology for bringing racing into disrepute, an apology to his owners, an apology to his trainers. Not much of an apology to Jason Gates. So I suspect there'll be a fallout for this. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a pretty lengthy ban. To be honest, it does go to show all the animal welfare people out there that a whip's not quite as bad as you think it is, because he gave the bloke 3 good whacks with it, and he did. He retaliated, but he didn't really turn a hair, as in ouch or yelps or screams or anything like that. So I don't think it particularly hurt. I suppose he's got his body protector on it, I guess.
That's what I was thinking.
It's a strange one. I mean, it was worth starting with just because it's so close. I've never seen that in all my years. Have a look on YouTube. Other video subscribers are available, no doubt, under Gavin Lorena Whips Jockey or something along those lines, and you'll get to see what we're talking about. I probably shouldn't find it quite as amusing as I do, because it's people's careers at stake here, and I hope it doesn't come to that. Gavin is a top jockey. There's no disagreement there. One of the best jockeys in the world. There's no argument there. So this was totally out of character as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to be watching the story with morbid interest, I suppose, to see what comes out in the wash. Whether we ever actually find out what really caused it, or whether it's just, I won't say hushed up, but whether it's just accepted. This is the punishment. Thank you very much. I'll accept it, and I'll start again 6 months' time or whatever it may be, and we never find the true story. But it's worth a look. Just whether I should count that as amusing, I don't know. Probably not. But
it had a novelty value, didn't it?
Yeah, and the best part about it is he made me write this. I've written all my stuff down as usual, so that we can lead in. Because I've written, of course, you could have asked the trainer for his or her opinion on Gavin. But then, if that was in the UK, you might have to pay him. What? Tell them the story about this.
They backed down on that one, yeah. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Chief Starer he's the general Chief Starer, isn't he? Mr. Saville suddenly announces trainers should be paid for interviews on TV. Well, that split the ranks, didn't it? Kim Bailey and people like that coming out and saying what a ridiculous thing to be doing. Jamie Snowden was another one, I think. Then you had Dan Skelton backing him up, saying, "Yeah, we should be paid. Jockeys are paid, but the jockeys are paid because it's something to do with their riding insurance."
Yeah,
and it goes towards that type of thing. Jockeys just wanted pay. Trainers just wanted paying for the sake of paying and standing in front of the camera and saying the same old things every interview, where they actually say a lot but say nothing. And then all of a sudden it was, well, oh no, we're not going to keep the money. It's going to go to charity. And then all of a sudden it's dropped. And it was like 2 days of mayhem. People think now this is just going to be swept under the carpet and it'll go away. It won't go away, you know. It's like Ed Chamberlain was saying in the paper the other day. He said, "We're here representing ITV Sports," he said, "and we've got the rugby coming up. We've got the FA Cup coming up and all the rest of it." He said, "And the only sport that keeps shooting itself in the foot is racing. It's the only sport that keeps doing something that gets negative press. When are they going to stop? When are these people going to grow up, all get together and say, do you know what, we really need to sort this game out?" It's doing my nut, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think the first thing I have to say, I always like to play devil's advocate if I can. I can see Peter Saville's point, and I can actually see the trainer's point. Why are the jockeys paid for their interviews? Well, they're not paid directly, as you say. It goes into the Professional Jockeys Association career-ending insurance scheme. But however, money changes hands for jockeys doing interviews. And I was amusingly thinking to myself, good job Ryan Moore doesn't get paid by the word. Sounds like more than about 4 words at a time. But they have got an argument, albeit a small one, why are jockeys paid and trainers aren't. They do have an argument there, and perhaps if something could be sorted out with smaller demands and a fund for trainers who fall on hard times, for want of an argument, I don't know if there is such a charity, then that might sweeten the pill a little. I do agree with you. I've written down this is example number 179 of racing shooting itself in the foot just for the year 2025, around in January. Free publicity is good publicity, and it gets the sport noticed. Someone else cleverer than me pointed out, what about the trainers who have retainers, shall we say, if that's the right phrase, with bookmakers as well? Their bookmakers are very happy if they're not allowed to come forward and say something and then have to pay them again effectively. So, I agree wholeheartedly it was shooting yourselves in the foot. It should have been done behind closed doors, and someone should have said, and I would have supported them on that, jockeys get something, why can't we have something as well? That would have been a perfectly reasonable question to ask. But coming out...
See, I think if I was in that position, say as an owner, when we went to Wolverhampton and Rosie's Lady won, first time for us, very first time in our colours, if I'd have been asked for an interview and I'd have said how much, what would they have said to me?
Would it moved on to the next race or
exactly? They wouldn't have said boo to me, would they? So what's the difference between me as the owner of the horse and David O'Mara, who was the trainer of the horse on the night? You're in this game because you love the sport, and I'd have been chuffed to bits to have been put in front of a camera and said, "Do you know what? We've just raised 1,300 quid for charity with that horse winning that race tonight," which is what actually happened. And it wouldn't have been about me. It wouldn't have been about what I just got out of something. And to hear the trainers who will be given airtime to promote themselves and their business and their ability as a trainer of a racehorse, free of charge, which would cost you thousands of pounds. If Dan Skelton wanted to promote himself on television and create an advertisement, you're looking at the thick end of 10 grand for a 3-minute advertisement. And he gets 3 or 4 minutes every time he wins a race for nothing. I'd have shut up. I'd have said nothing, Bonkers that.
I think it's mad. And what the potential, and I only just thought of this, knock-on effect is if trainers insist and the racecourses refuse to pay, which is a possibility, then what you've then got is only jockeys being interviewed. They won't interview owners because owners might want to be paid. They won't interview trainers because trainers already said they want to be paid. You're stuck with the same jockeys saying the same, some are more articulate than others, and that's fair enough. but you're only left with a limited pool of people to interview on the TV, aren't you? And that becomes boring. And you're trying to sell the sport, as you say, not trying to shut it down. So you want to be really actually should be talking to more owners. I think that's something they don't do often enough, personally.
They don't. It's like when a horse goes past the winning post, they name the trainer and they name the jockey. And unless it's a JP McManus horse or a Godolphin horse or Coolmore horse, the owners very, very rarely get a mention. And they're the people paying for the sport. Man.
Who's got the? I can't actually remember who rode Rosie's Day. Was it Danny Tudhope?
I think it was Graham Gibbons. Oh no, okay. No, it was Danny Tudhope that night. First night it was Danny Tudhope. Second it was Graham Gibbons.
Okay, so what you've actually got then effectively is an interview with David O'Mara potentially on his 87th winner of the season, which 87th, that's not overly exciting. You've got an interview with Danny Tudhope on his 65th winner of the season. I'm just making the numbers up, obviously. Or interview with an owner who's potentially had their first winner ever.
Which we did.
Yeah, which shows all the joy and all the
first horse. That was the only horse we'd ever owned outright at that point. It was the very first run in our colours. It was New Year's Day, and we won by 3-4 lengths, and we had about 60 or 70 people there that night. And nobody said a word to us. We got some nice champagne and a little silver salve out of it, but
who would have been the most excited person to interview? Who would have been the most saleable, if you like, marketable interview to do? Would be the excited owner who's just had their first winner. But no, they're ignored. And back to, as I say, someone who's having their umpteenth winner of the season and umpteenth winner, as a jockey as well. That's no offence to either of them. But
another thing is, before it slips my mind, right, is that when a trainer is interviewed, and it was something I picked on, Dave Yates said on something on Racing TV the other night. He said it's the reason he got out of the Racing Post. He said after every race, his instruction was to ring the trainer up and get a soundbite, right?
Yeah.
And he said every trainer said exactly the same thing every single time he rang them up. And he said I just couldn't do it anymore. I had to get out. And so if these people want paying for saying the same old thing every single time, it just isn't going to happen. And it's like somebody else on the panel said on Racing TV the other night. I know of one trainer, and they were pointing directly at Rishi Prasad, who was chairing the show that night. They pointed at him and said, "And you know who this is, Rishi?" He said, "Because as soon as they think they've said enough, they say, 'Thanks very much, Rishi,' and walk away from you." And these people want paying. Go and play under the bus.
Well, Aidan O'Brien, very few people would argue he's a brilliant trainer, and he's actually really, really good with the media. He always finds time for us, I have to say that. However, the TV asks exactly the same question. The horse wins, what's his next target? And Aidan will always reply something along the lines of, well, it could be, but we'll have to go talk to the boys first and see what they want to do, or words to that effect. Because
it's up to the lads.
No decision has been made at that time, and it's naive to expect a decision to be made at that time. Let's see how the horse comes out. If he comes out really well, then there's a different target.
If you've got a Group 1 horse, you know the path the horse is going.
If he's well,
everybody knows. If you go for the Derby, you're going to take in 1,000 guineas. You might go for the Dante, then you go for the guineas. Then you think, well, do you think you stay the Legend Trip? No, we'll go for the King George. You know, why bother asking a trainer any of that sort of thing of a Group 1 horse? Pointless.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nip and tuck. There's a horse we're talking about later, but his next race at the moment, as things stand, is the Saudi Cup, where he's by dirt for the first time. Now, if he wins that and wins it by a street, then it's all systems go for the Dubai World Cup, which is also on dirt. If he fails and doesn't handle the dirt, then it's all systems go for the Dubai turf. So it all depends on the next race before the race after that, if you see what I mean, and whether he eats up and whether he reacts badly. So they can't really give that answer. So you're asking a question they can't definitely answer. That's the thing. And only they know what else they've got in the yard that they need to send somewhere else.
Well, true,
Still, on to my own personal favourite topic next. And I put this one When is a winning bet not a winning bet? Now, this is something I'm quite fuming about. So do you mind if I take the lead on this one?
Oh, you carry on. Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about ACCAs. We're talking about accumulation. We're talking about Ron and I coming up with 7 horses that we think are going to win. Now, shooting at the stars that they're going to win, but the potential is there that they could. So Ron puts a bet on, he puts a £10 win accumulator on 7 horses, and he leaves it at SP because he thinks something's going to drift. And they all come in. And then you find out your bookmaker has a limit of £50,000. Now, my issue with that is it's your problem. You should read the terms and conditions to know what the limits are. As a customer, I don't like to say that, but that's the legal argument, and it's quite correct. You can't go against it. 100,000 with some, 250,000 with others, up to £1 million with others. What I have a concern about is after your first 5 have won in your fictitious 7-horse ACCA, what happens if you've already reached the limit? Yeah, you've hit that 100,000, 200,000, whatever bookmaker you use. You've hit that limit on horse 5. What happens now? That means horse 6 and horse 7 are running for the bookmakers.
Yeah.
Because if they win, your payout goes up absolutely nothing. Yeah. But if one of them loses, your bet goes in the bin. Now, I don't see that as being right. I see that the old adage that if you can't have a winning bet, you can't have a losing bet either, sort of thing.
Exactly right.
How does that sit within the rules? Now, I have to stand up for. I'm going to pick on Paddy Power because when I first thought of this, I went onto the evening race card at Wolverhampton of all places, and I put together an ACCA on all the outsiders just to see what happened. Now, admittedly, with my Paddy Power account, I can't take SP. I can only take prices. Yeah. So I put them in with the prices they were, and it came up with something that says something along the lines of, "Ooh, someone's shooting for the moon, aren't they?" Or worse, because I'd crashed through their £1 million jackpot, their £1 million maximum payout limit. Yeah. So to be fair to them, it came up with a warning, and it told me that that's what's going to happen. So theoretically, you could go, well, actually, I'll take one of the outsiders out then, whichever one I fancy the least, and settle for that, whatever. But if you did it at SP, they can't. There's no maths to calculate, is there?
No.
Do you see what I mean?
No.
10 to 1 times 10 to 1 times 10 to 1, and you start to reach a limit. But unknown price times unknown price times unknown price, it can't be calculated out. So I'm of the opinion, and apparently I appear to be the only one so far, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up, that feels that shouldn't be the case. If you reach that limit, the bet should stop and be paid out there.
It should, yeah. I'm 100% with you. I've often thought about this, to be honest with you. They have a limit for a reason. You can't win more than what their limit is. So if your bet hits that limit, they should say, right, congratulations. Your last 2 runners no longer count. You've won 50,000 quid. Take it away. If you give us all your financial details, what mortgage you got, etc.
That argument's for another day. Okay, I'm
another one.
I'm going to put Ron on the spot here. I'm not expecting you to give me accurate answers or name names or anything like that, but I'm going to take a guess that you've got more than one bet in the account.
You wouldn't be wrong.
Okay, now if you wrote those down now, I'm just going to make these up: William Hill, Corals, Ladbrokes, Paddy, Unibet, whatever. You're going to write them all down. Do you know what their limits are?
I haven't got a jar of glue. No. And I'm willing to bet that out of all the people listening to this, or both the people listening to this, whatever, most people don't know that either. And it's largely hidden way down in the terms and conditions that you cannot. We looked into my friend Steve Tilley on the HBF looked into terms and conditions, and some of them take 82 minutes to read. Standard reading, 82 minutes to read. Now, who on earth has ever read those? You look at it and go, I'm not going to like them, but I'm going to have to just click the yes, I accept them button, because you haven't got a choice if you want to put your fiver on. Simple as that. Now, that's abusing the customer as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that's fair. And I think that certain things, I accept there's all sorts of legalese they need to put in there that could still be much simpler than it is. But something like the limits, it should be on page 1 and in pretty bold letters, really. We found, I think it's Quiff is the bookmaker's got a limit of 50,000. The big bookies have got 1 million, admittedly. I think it's Unibet. Don't quote me on that one before Unibet come after me. I think theirs is 100,000. Which it's a big sum, don't get me wrong, but if you put a bet on that's going to win you 400,000, you'd be pretty peeved if you only got 100 out of it. Yeah, and you would.
And then BetMGM, I'm willing to say this out loud, BetMGM have looked through their terms and conditions. It refers to limits here, limits there, payout limits this, payout limits that. Nowhere on their website can I actually find what that limit is.
No.
Nowhere. Now,
Well,
I'm
would that
looking
be
into
illegal?
that. I'm looking into that. I don't know, and I don't know how to find out, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something as well. You said to me, do I know what my limits are with a bookmaker? Now, the reason I don't bother looking at that is because I don't do ACCAs, right? Yep. I bet singles and I Dutch and that type of thing, right?
Yep.
But suppose in the course of a day, I won 50,000 quid Dutching and playing singles.
Yep.
And wanted to place another bet. And would they apply their limit to me because I'd won 50,000 quid in that day?
Or would they take the bet knowing they don't have to pay you out?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. I don't know. My understanding.
No, I don't know.
Getting my head around all these terms and conditions is impossible for us, let alone bear a very little brain like me. But some, I understand, have a limit per day. Some have a limit per betting slip. Not that we have betting slips anymore, but the electronic.
So it wouldn't necessarily just apply to ACCAs then. It would be a daily win limit.
With some bookmakers, it's a daily win limit. Yes. With others, it's per slip. If you manage to find a way that you could Dutch 3 horses in a race and still make the £100,000 limit, I'm with you all the way. But generally speaking, it wouldn't. But some would apply to a daily limit, in which case, yes, you could potentially. And the question mark becomes, would they then accept your next £50 bet, knowing full well that they don't have to pay you? So that's something else to try and look into whenever there's enough time. Dear Lord, could you please make it 26 hours in a day because I haven't got enough time.
No.
It is. There's too much going on. I just think it's something that people should be aware of and they need to look into when you're putting your ACCAs together. Have a look, even if you just do it in your head roughly with the odds you're talking about. If you come up with something like, I mean, good luck to you. It's no different to me buying a lottery ticket, so I'm not blaming anyone for doing it at all. Yeah. But be warned and be wary that you may well not get paid out what you think you're going to get paid out. So at least have a look at your limits first. Right. Yeah. And then we're going to end with some sort of good news. And I think it's good news. It's interesting news anyway. Who is the best horse in the world, or worse to that effect? I think I put it down as. I was very lucky. I got invited to the Longines Awards last week up in the Savoy, lovey, don't you know? Yes. And we had the race of the year. Went to the Juddmonte International at York. That was considered the highest rated race in the world last year. So good to them. This isn't plagiarism because I had this on the podcast list before Maddie Pyle wrote something in the Racing Post. But she's written an excellent article pretty much saying what I'm saying here. They had 2 horses were crowned joint top horses in the world. Laurel River, who won last year's Dubai World Cup by a street, and of course Aidan O'Brien's City of Troy. Now they were crowned joint top race horses. It's done on a rating system. It's not done on a voting system. Everyone. But Maddie and I can't work out, though we weren't in collusion on this. What about Romantic Warrior? I don't know if you know anything about it. Did you have a look and see? What did you think? I did, yeah. No, what I did was, you just said it's based on ratings, yeah? Yeah. And City of Troy and Laurel River, both rated 128, and Romantic Warriors 125. Yep. So if they're going on official ratings, I mean, they have to just give it to those 2 horses, don't they? I assume. They do, but I'm looking at Romantic Warrior. He's a personal favourite. He's Hong Kong-based gelding. I think he's 7. Yeah. If I'm wrong, I think he's 7. Yeah, he's 7 now, so he was 7 in January, I guess, unless they're different for the hemisphere. He's won 18 of his 23 starts. He's won £18 million in prize money, making him the highest ever of time. He's won 10 Group 1s. He's won over distances from 6 furlongs to 1.25 miles, and was only beaten a short distance when he tried 1.5 miles. He's won in Hong Kong, he's won in Australia, he's won in Japan, and then last week he went off to Dubai for the Group 1 Jebel Hatter and turned it into a procession. Now, his next race is the Saudi Cup, where he's going to try and outdo City of Troy. That'd be funny, by winning on dirt before he possibly has a crack at the Dubai World Cup. I don't think he's the best horse in training. I think he's one of the best horses of all time. Yeah. And I cannot see why, other than decrying Hong Kong form, why they rate him £3 lower. Yeah, I was just going to say, who sets the rating for that horse? Because City of Troy is he's had 7 races on turf, won 6. Yeah, that's it. The international handicappers set the ratings. Yeah. Now, although the handicappers, and obviously none of these horses are going to be seen in a handicap, that's where the official ratings come from.
Sure, yeah.
And they obviously know their job better than I do, so it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, my comments, to be honest. But I can't see how he's not considered. I can't see how he doesn't even get into the conversation. I think he was 124, and they put him up to 125 after winning the Jebel Hatter, if memory serves. Still leaves him £3 short of City of Troy, and I just don't see City of Troy's done anything like what Romantic Warrior's done. So,
and he's not going to be allowed to either, is he?
No, he's disappeared and gone, and that's the end. He's gone off to start where he'll make more money than he could on a racetrack, which is an argument for another day. That's something that I don't think that's particularly good for the sport, to the extent that I would wonder whether, if the powers that be can, because you'd be up against Coolmore, so good luck with that one, whether you could introduce a tapering tax regime where they're charged, I'm going to make the numbers up, I don't know, 25% tax if they retire at 3, 20% tax at 4, but only 10 if they retire at 5.
Yeah.
Something like
do you know what? I'd love to see these horses racing at 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned many times in previous podcasts, a horse isn't mature. It hasn't even got all of its teeth until it's 5 years of age. That's when it's a mature horse.
Well, that's why I love Hong Kong racing so much. I don't love it more than I love UK racing. That's not correct. But on the flats, they will continue racing as our jumpers do, because they're all gelded, because they don't have a breeding industry. So therefore, once Romantic Warrior's not in a position to be winning races anymore, he will be retired and he'll go off to a farm somewhere. But while he's able to race, they'll keep racing him, because that's where his income comes from. Whereas over here, you can earn, I don't even know what City of Troy won in earnings, to be honest with you. But we say he won £3 million for want of an argument. He'll earn that more than that in a year when he's at stud.
Of course he will. Yeah.
And it's guaranteed money. So no wonder they rush off to stud. But perhaps racing needs to look at itself and go, we can't stop them, but we can discourage them.
Yeah.
And then perhaps the tax from that, if they want to put City of Troy to stud at 25% or whatever I said in tax, that's up to them. But that money comes back into racing, so we can put our prize money up, perhaps. Or they're encouraged to keep him running at 4 because the tax starts to taper. I should put that idea forward. That'll get me propping up a motorway bridge somewhere. But I'll put the idea forward. Anyway, enough small talk, I suppose, before we bore these poor people to tears. Should we do a bit about the racing this weekend?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got the DRF. For the uninitiated, that's the Dublin Racing Festival.
Okay.
Now, over the last few years, it's become a bit of a mismatch. Last year, for instance, Willie Mullins won every single Grade 1 race.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody far more eloquent than me put it in the Racing Post today. If that happens again this year, how many people are actually going to turn up at the racetrack next year to watch it happen again? Now, I'm looking at the first race we're going to talk about. It's the 115. Now, obviously, when we're talking Grade 1 races, I can't do profiling because they're all the same. All the horses are playing off a level playing field. It's not like a handicap where you've got one being trained for the day, so to speak. All these horses are being trained for this particular day. And usually, as I say, I'd look at age groupings and weight ranges and market position. But when it comes to the DRF, all I need to do is basically looking at what Willie Mullins has entered. Like I say, last season he won all Grade 1 races at this festival. And tomorrow we've got 4 of the Grade 1s. And he saddles 3 of the current favourites, 2 of which are trading odds on.
Yep.
Well, Mullins has won 3 of the last 4 of these races, this first race we're talking about now. And he's got the first 4 on the tissue tomorrow. Yeah, he's got a final demand, currently the clear 7-4 favourite. He's only had 2 runs. And that's what I was saying earlier this morning when I was mentioning this to you. It's impossible to read what Mullins is up to. Last year he won this race with Dancing City, who went off 16-1.
Yeah.
In 2022 he won it with another outsider that went in at 11-1. But in 2021 he had the favourite bolt in at 13-8. And those horses, the last 3 years, were aged 5, 6 and 7. And he won it in 2015, 16 and 17 with horses aged 5, 6 and 7. 5 to 1, 6 to 4, and 8 to 11. He's got 5 of the 12 runners in this race tomorrow, including the outside of the whole field, which is not without a hope, by the way. Yeah. And one of those, Jasmine DeVoe, won the champion bumper at Cheltenham last March. Won easily on debut over 2 miles. So then he puts it over 2 miles 4, where it gets stuffed by the Yellow Clay, who's probably going to go for the Albert Bartlett at Cheltenham. But tomorrow he put it over even further, 2 miles 6, and he's putting cheap pieces on it. It jumped like an absolute pig last time out. And I know the connections are already looking at a race next month. I've forgotten where it was now. I was listening to the guy that buys the horses for the owners, Suede and what's his face, Munir, and he was saying they now need to get this horse to brush up his jumping, so they're going for a lower grade race next month. So what's he doing in this race? I don't understand that. No. Anyway, as I say, jump like a pig next time. They're looking for an easier race. If I told you what was going to win this, I'd be lying. You're much better off dutching Final Demand, Super Sunday, and Sounds Victorious. You'll get a 50% profit off that touch.
Oh, right.
That's if Jasmine DeVoe doesn't prove all the connections wrong. He jumps like a buck and wins, pulling a caravan, proving the bumper win wasn't a fluke. I don't know what to make of that bumper last year. I'll come on to that on the it'scheltenham.com site. But as for selecting one here, I can't do it. I'm going to have to touch. Coward, yeah. But at least I'll be happy with a 50% profit.
Yeah, I've put pretty much what you said on. There's 12 runners there, 5 for Willie Mullins, 2 for Gornelli. I'll put some of these reporting to the Monopolies Commission. Yeah. The betting suggests Final Demand is the Mullins' first string. Interestingly, they bought him for €230,000 when he was unraced. So he must have a good look to him, that's for sure. One on his debut in a point-to-point at Lingstown by 6 lengths after heavy support saw him sent off favourite. Moved to Willie's Yard. Odds on for his hurling bow saw a very impressive victory, to be fair. He's only 10 to 1 for the Turners at Cheltenham, 8 to 1 for the Albert Bartlett. Needs to win this and do so comfortably to justify those odds. But I have to say he does look an exciting prospect, and I can't oppose him, unfortunately. This is one of those weekends where, as you said, the Mullins Brigade, something will be a shock for probably a Mullins outsider somewhere that none of us have looked at carefully enough, or has improved at home that we can't possibly know about. But on the visualization, on my own eyes, what I saw of Final Demand last time out, I think he looks like a really good prospect. So I'll be backing him tomorrow. And he's a Mullins horse that's not odds on. So let's not argue.
I know, a rarity.
Next up, we're going from Ireland to Scotland for the 152.
Yeah, the Scottish Triumph Hurdle. This is a listed race. I don't know what you made of this, but we've got the second favourite is only once raced. Coming here for Paul Nicholls. Came on 4th of 7 on debut for the Yard, and he's sitting behind a favourite that only joined Harry Derham at the start of this year, again from France. Whoever priced him up as favourite is obviously applying guesswork.
Yeah.
The second, third, and fourth favourites, they are all maidens in this country. I haven't got a clue what to expect from any of them, Now, we were just talking about horses being retired early on the flat.
Yeah.
Well, the horse that finished 5th to a horse called Nietzsche Has that came over from France and won at Chepstow, 3 years of age. They've already retired that horse in France at the age of 3, but he's already won 250,000 quid, 4 wins in a 7-race career, if you can call that a career. But I actually quite like the overall form of Static. He ran 5th to that Nietzsche Has when they sent it over for that race at Chepstow, like I've just said. And before that, he'd finished an 18-length second to East India Dock. Well, in the light of this race, East India Dock, what is he trading favourites or second favourite for our Triumph Hurdle at the moment?
Yeah, he's certainly up in the betting.
Yeah, you've got to fancy him on those 2 bits of form alone, even if it's just a place. Like I say, they've already retired. Nietzsche Has at the age of 3, gone to stud, 7,000 quid a pop if you like. So what actually wins this tomorrow? I haven't got a clue. But at around 5 to 1, And if I can get even money just for a place bet, I'll have a place only bet on Static, because at least I do know about him.
Yeah. I'll let Ron go first and then have to say things like I don't disagree. Maitre on side heads the betting, but his wins were at Dieppe and Clairefontaine. Now, they're not bad courses, but they're not Auteuil. So, not the top French form. Maitre on side is a she as well. So you would expect her to be receiving weight in this race. But because of her 2 wins, she isn't. She's going to have to give weight to her male counterpart.
Yeah.
Now, that makes her life considerably tougher as far as I'm concerned. Now, Nardoran for Paul Nicholls pulled way too hard at Kempton on his debut. They put cheap pieces on him here. If he settles, he could be anything, and he could equally be nothing. So who knows? We'll have to wait till after the race. I'm going to take an each way chance on Hossam at about 14-1 as we write. Trained by Adrian Paul Keatley in Yorkshire, he showed a pretty good attitude to win at Wedby last time out. He only won by a head, but it didn't actually reflect his true dominance. And I got a funny feeling that he might have idled a little once he went to the front. Now, Brian Hughes rode him that day, and Brian Hughes is nobody's fool. Absolutely not. Now, I would like to hope, I guess it's hope more than no, that he suggested this as his next target, because he's in the saddle again this afternoon. So I'm hopeful that he feels this is a race that will suit him. Now, he'll need to be produced later this time round. Brian will know that. So I expect him to be produced quite late on the scene. They're going to go at a decent pace because it's quite a decent field. And I think he could be produced late on and even win at 14-1. But I will happily settle for the first 3 if he can hit that. 14-1, Hossam, if that's pronounced right, probably not, Hossam, whatever, each way in the whatever it is, 142 at Musselburgh.
Yeah, I'll just finish by saying that Paul Nicholls has won 4 of the last 8 runnings of this. So
yeah,
he's not sending that one up for nothing, is he? That's a long old hike from where they are down at Ditchy to Musselburgh.
It is. Yeah, but the alternative way of looking at things is he wouldn't be as short as 11-2 if Nicholls hadn't won 4 of those runnings. So
and it opened at 100-30, so it's massively on the drift.
Oh right, interesting. I've got 11-2 now, the latest price I can see. So okay, well we'll see. I'm happy with the 14-1 shot each way. I won't be putting a mortgage on it, that's for sure. But we should get a good run for our money anyway. Hopefully one of us finds them. Back over the Irish Sea again, and we're off to the 150 at Musselburgh. The Grade 1 juvenile hurdle. What did you make of this one?
Well, Mullins won the last 3 runnings of this and 6 of the last 10. Surprise, surprise. But Danny Mullins has ridden the last 2 of those winners. Plus, he also won on footpad back in 2016. And Mullins has never won this yet with a horse that was trading favourite. Only one of those 6 winners has traded bigger than 6-1. Tomorrow, the current favourite is a horse called Hello Neighbour, rated in the mid-90s on the flat, trained by Gavin Cromwell. And the third favourite on the book at the moment is a horse he beat on debut called Lady Vega Allen. Only beats at a short head. And Mullins trains that one as well. Hello Neighbour is currently the shortest priced Irish runner for the Triumph Hurdle over here, round about 7-1. Lady de Vega is 8-1. And St. Lucie, who is second favourite tomorrow, trades at 10-1. I don't know. I'm struggling to work out how they got this betting sorted out. I mentioned Danny Mullins riding 3 of the 6 winners, the Mullins winners, because tomorrow he's on the 14-1 outsider of Mullins called Sonny Bill.
Yeah.
And because I've not got a baldy clue what Mullins is up to, I'm going to suggest a 2080 that one, purely based on booking jockey history. This horse actually ran 3rd in the race that Hello Neighbour won from Lady de Vega. And that was its first run for Mullins since it arrived from France. I'll have a little 2080 and fingers crossed it improves for that run, as will probably Lady de Vega and as will probably St. Lucie and also Hello Neighbour. But as I don't know which is going to win it, I'm going to go for a little outsider to hit the frame. Hello Neighbour, round about 14-1, 2080.
You mean Sonny Bill?
Sonny Bill. Get it right.
Just in case anyone's daft enough to be making notes. Yeah, I see.
Anybody trying to get 14-1 for Hello Neighbour's got no chance.
Hello Neighbour's on the drift, and he's now out to 11-4, second favourite behind St. Lucie at 2-1. It could well go to any of those but I do think that Wendrock might be the forgotten horse here for Gordon Elliott. Amongst all the Mullins maelstrom, as I've written down, I think that people forget that Gordon Elliott's not a bad trainer either.
Right.
20-1 about Wendrock, bought off the flat, finished third at Navan. It was a running on 2-length course and distance victory last time out. He does need to take a step forward, I freely admit that, but he showed some decent battling qualities that day. If they go off a good pace here, as I suspect they will, I think he's got possibly more stamina than some of these, and I think you might even see him stepping up to 2.5 miles in the not too distant future. So a fast early pace here. I can see Wendrock finishing well. 20-1, top 3 finish. That will do for me.
How weird is that? I'm just looking at Wendrock myself now.
Yeah.
And it's unusual to see the likes of Gigginstown getting a horse off the flat.
Yeah.
But even more strange was that when it was trained on the flat, it was trained by Lucinda Russell.
Yes, bit of a mishmash and a bit of a weird one. I agree.
Ran in a class 3 at Ascot as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a highly competitive.
No.
But I don't think he should be 20-1 either. I think he'll be
No,
there.
probably not.
I hope he'll be there or thereabouts. And if he is at 20-1, I'll be counting more money out than you will from back in the favourite. So, well, not
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So, fingers crossed. Now I chuck this one in because Ron. I always try and be nice to Ron. However he treats me, I'm always nice to Ron. And it's at 250 at Musselburgh. We've got a nice handicap that he can get his teeth into. The Scottish.
Yeah.
But before he gets his teeth into it, I have to ask one question. Here we go. Sean's going to get shot down in flames by our Scottish listeners yet again. Why do they call it a champion chase when it's over 2.5 miles?
Yeah.
But that's perfectly logical. It's like calling it the Scottish Grand National and running it over 2 miles. If you're going to name it after the champion chase, then it needs to be over the same distance as the champion chase.
You would have thought so.
And also,
not a handicap either.
Yeah, I was just about to add that. But anyway, that's got that bit out of the way. Tell them who's going to win it, Ron, and I'll tell them.
Oh, I'd love to. I start off by saying, oh, lovely, 12 run a handicap chase. I just feel after those earlier races that I've come out into the light. Unfortunately, we've only ever had one running of this race, so I can't actually profile it. So I'm back into the dark. My only way in here, and I've used this before and it worked a treat, was to look at trainer history for this kind of race at this particular track. And anything Lucinda Russell runs in such races, you've got to give it serious consideration. She won this race last year, the only previous running of it. But in steeplechases of this type at the track, she has 28 winners from 134 runners, showing a level £1 stake profit of £24.25. She's the only trainer showing a profit in this type of race at this track. She's relying on Trap Rain Law tomorrow, 14-1 as I look at the tissue right now. But I'm afraid the horse is already 0 from 5 ground and 0 from 1 at the trip. And another negative for me would be the fact that it's never run at the track before. And pretty much like any track like this, Chester, Catterick, Musselburgh, if you're not suited to a very sharp track, you might as well stay in your yard. Based on the stats, and looking at ground, trip and track, the pick has got to be Marble Sands. 4 from 8 on the ground, 5 from 11 at the trip, and 1 from 1 at the track. There are other horses in the race that have got what I call the 3 ticks, ground, trip and track. Fidelio Vallis, Minella Drama, and the Kaluki Kid, Nicky Richards' horse. I thought Marble Sands ran an absolute belter at Cheltenham recently to finish second to Springwell Bay. He's around about 11-2 at the moment. I'm tempted, 2080. I think we'll get our money back if nothing else. I'm going Marble Sands, 2080.
Well, you had me in a total state of panic there for a while, as in I thought I was looking at the wrong race, but I'm not. I am, and I'm not at the same time. I'm looking at the last 12 runnings of this race, and that's got Ron falling over. That's because it used to be run over 2 miles up to 2023.
Yeah.
And then they upped it to 2 mile 4.5 in 2024. So you've got the 1 running for 2024, and I've been working on the 12 runnings over 2 miles prior to that. So whether any of my stats after that actually come into play is a different matter. I can only use the name of the race because I hadn't spotted it change distance, to be honest with you. I looked it through. Long story short, there's no point in going through the rest. I've come up with Marble Sands as well. He was on my shortlist.
Oh, lovely!
On the old race, having been over 2 miles. He's the only horse that I can see that's won off his current mark or higher. Now, admittedly, that was in a listed race, not a handicap, but it does at least suggest that he's not got too much to carry compared to what he's capable of. Solid second at Cheltenham. He's off a pound higher in January when he's second at Cheltenham as well. Work that one out. Second at Cheltenham, he's gone down a pound. Doesn't make any sense to me. I put down solid each way call. His current 6-1 when I wrote. He's down to 5s now, but shop around, you might get lucky. I'm still going to go each way. Your equivalent for 2080. And all the stats I wrote down and spent hours on are now completely and utterly useless because they changed the distance of the race. Thank you very much, whoever did that.
We're going to find this at Cheltenham, by the way, this year.
Oh, I know.
Because they've changed all the rules and regulations for at least 6 races. For instance, would be the National Hunt Chase, which is now open to professional jockeys, and they made the cross-country races now a handicap, and it's going to be a race old palaver, but we'll still find the winners. Don't worry.
Absolutely, I'm sure. I'm confident. But yeah, I'll stick with Marble Sands there with the other 75,000 words I've written completely and utterly irrelevant. Okay, moving swiftly on for my embarrassed face that you can't see, thank goodness, onto the 255 at Leopardstown, which is the Irish Arkle Novice Chase. Now, a small field, but quite a potentially important race. What do you make of this one?
Well, again, Mullins won the last 4 of these and 7 of the last 10. Tomorrow he relies on 2, one of which won the 2024 Triumph Hurdle by just under 2 lengths. That's called Musselburgh. Then missed the big festival over there, put away for a chasing career. Returned on the 14th of January to make, December wasn't it, actually, to make chasing debut. Bolted in by nearly 7 lengths. And is now just 5-2 to give Sergino a race at Cheltenham in our Arkle. He's 4-7 tomorrow to beat his own stable companion, Il Atlantique, who's won his first 2 races this season. Whilst I have no idea as to whether or not he will, my thinking is Il Atlantique is more of a staying horse, and Major will do him for speed tomorrow. It's 10-1 bar the 2. Mullins will win it, and I think he wins it with Majborough.
I can't answer the question I'm about to ask you because it's only just come to mind. When's the last time you saw a Triumph Hurdle go straight over fences? I can't remember one, that's for sure. No. I'm sure someone will write in or something and say, oh, there's this one, and this one. But my fading memory doesn't remember. I mean, usually there's at least a season over hurdles to see if you're good enough to be a champion hurdler. Champion hurdler, yeah. Or something along those lines, and then you might switch to fence. I've never seen them go quite that quickly over fences, but still. He made too many mistakes for my liking for me to get heavily involved at an odds-on price, I have to be honest. He's going to need to brush up his jumping if he's going to take on or get anywhere near to Sergino come the Arkle. But he looks the sort that's going to learn with his racing, I have to say. And if that's the case, he is the likeliest winner. It's not turned out to be a great race to talk about, and probably not to be honest with you. But we're trying to strike that happy medium between people who love their racing and people who want to have a bet. And although the majority are both, races of this importance, and I think you'll find historically that this is pretty productive for winning the Arkle itself, the winner of this. So it does become an important race in the history of the season, if nothing else. So you might not want to put a bet on Majborough. At least you can probably put him in an acca without worrying about breaching any payout limits, that's for sure. He does look the likeliest winner. He needs to improve. It's a race I'll be watching. It's almost certainly not a race I'll be getting involved in. And that says that. And that really pretty much potentially applies to the last race as well, which is the 3.
It does it all. Yeah. I've started off with, is there any really point in discussing this? Galloping de Champs. He's absolutely unbeatable over fences around Leopardstown. His form figures read 1-1-1-1-1-1. His only defeat at this track came when he went off at 100-1 for the hurdles race back in 2021. Mullins trains the 3 of the front 4 on the tissue tomorrow. And I expect to see the favourite winning for the third successive year before then going to Cheltenham and winning the Gold Cup again in March. He's a bit of a machine, is Galloping Deschamps, over this trip. I don't think there's a staying chaser either side of the Irish Channel at the moment can get anywhere near him. I think he's a banker tomorrow. I think he's a banker on the Friday of the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, he was 4-6 when I wrote this. He's now 4-7, unfortunately. I started mine by saying describing a price of 4-6 as value may seem hung, drawn, and quartered in certain circles, but I actually think that's a good price.
I do as well. I thought 2 to 5 minimum.
He's pretty much the same price exactly to retain his crown at Cheltenham in what will probably be a stronger field. He won last time out by an easy 7 lengths in the Savills Chase. Fact File, who meets him on the same terms, left trailing in his wake. He doesn't make very many jumping mistakes. I can't see any reason that form will be turned around. 6 of the 9 runners means it's pretty likely Willie Mullins is going to win it with something, that's for sure. If you wanted a bigger price bet, I don't think Hewick is the right price at 28 to 1. If Hewick's on his game, then he could certainly mount a challenge to the first 3. That's all I would say. Can he beat Galloping Deschamps barring mistakes? No, he can't. I don't think he can at all. But I do think Hewitt could put in a good run at 28 to 1 if you fancy something a little bit longer priced. But I'm sticking with Galloping Deschamps. I mean, I wouldn't want to make him a nap because he's odds on, but I think he should be shorter than he is. As
I say, I thought we'd be looking 2 to 5 minimum.
Yeah, I mean that is stupid to say odds on his value, but that's actually potentially a value price. Famous last words. But that is a value price. He's the best horse in the race. He keeps winning here. Ron's told you his record here and his record in this race. Even that price looks like value to me. And therefore,
yes.
And there we press this fictitious button that no longer exists.
It's
the OMS time. Over to you.
Yeah. Well, in 3, a horse called Answer to Keith. Now, I've been covering the Irish racing for OMS as well because I found myself a contraption that allows me to work a little bit quicker. So I'm able to do the OMS and what have you for, well, this one was at Dundalk. It was called Answer to Keith. Open 6 to 1. It's 100 to 30. Went 9 to 4, got a flame. Bolted in at 7 to 4. And secondly, a horse called Love Rock. This is proof positive. You never be afraid of a drifter. Opened up 14 to 1. It's 7 to 1. Eased a little bit to 8 to 1 as money came for 2 others. Went out to 11 to 1 as money continued to come for the other 2. It won at 11 to 1.
Nice.
And lastly, last Saturday at Doncaster, Doc picked me. 20 to 1, 14 to 1, 12 to 1, 10 to 1, with a flame, posed up 9 to 1. Picked the bones out of that. Did you see the OMS yesterday for Chelmsford? All the flames I had up there.
Yeah.
That was probably the strongest single meeting market I've seen in all the time I've been doing OMS and updating them and marking them as strong. Never. It was like an arsonist had been down there. Unbelievable.
Wow. Long may it continues. All we can add to that.
Well, I tell you. Yeah. Well, you know that drifter as well that won, that Love Rock? Well, the other 2 that were backed, and that caused the drift on that one, they came in 1, 2, 3, about 140 to 1 TriCast. Yeah, just nice. As I mentioned.
Wouldn't mind a tenner on that, will you? Wouldn't mind a tenner. What are we going to give them? What's your something for the weekend, sir?
It's got to be Marble Sands on everything I've seen. 2018 Marble Sands. You maybe double it up with Galloping Deschamps. Maybe chuck in Mashborough for a treble if you're feeling greedy. But I'll just have a little single Marble Sands 2018.
Okay, well, I was going to go with Marble Sands as well, so I'll change it quickly. We'll give them something different. I'm going to go for Final Demand in the 115 at Leopardstown.
Okay.
I think that's got all the potential in the world to go on to be an absolute world beater.
Yeah. Hope you're right. Do the double.
He says rapidly changing what he's written down originally. Okay. got to keep them happy, haven't we? So, okay. Anything else we need to discuss before they open another beer?
Don't think so. No, I think that's just about it for this week. I enjoyed that. I tell you what, this is a break from the norm for both of us. You know what it's like on a day-to-day basis. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And especially now we're looking at 4 and 5 meetings with 7, 8, and 9 races. It's just constant. So to get the chance to shut the door, just do something totally different and have a bit of a natter about racing. Love it. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
I think it's reminding us, as well as the people listening, that racing is a sport and an entertainment industry, and there's more to it than the 4 to 7 favourite beating the 7 to 2 second favourite. Well, that's all part of it. It's not the only part of it. The only thing I wanted to close with was the we discussed it this morning slightly. The sad news about Joe Samaras Smith.
Oh yeah.
At the BHA. He's basically stood down with immediate effect because of his health. It's not my place to go into any more detail than that and find further details on the racing media, such as the Racing Post, etc. He's done a sterling job. We sit here and we castigate the BHA and we castigate certain people at the BHA occasionally, and sometimes they deserve it and sometimes they probably don't, to be fair. But their hands are tied, bound, duct taped and tie wrapped at the same time with regard to what they can do. And I think he's tried his absolute best in his tenure to sail the ship of British racing through some very stormy weather, which sadly isn't over yet for the rest of us. But just want to sort of publicly thank him for his help, really.
But you don't get to stay in the position he was in for as long as he was in it if you can't do the job.
No, exactly. Just my thoughts are with him. I'm not very clever with the horrible things like that. So I'm just going to say our thoughts are with him, and I think a lot of thoughts with a lot of people with him as well for what you say. But I wanted to add that on because I felt it was the right thing to do.
Sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Don't know if we're doing one next week. I don't even know what I'm doing next week. You haven't got a clue. Don't even know what I'm doing when I put the phone down. But have a good weekend, everybody. I'm looking out my window and it's British weather, i.e. miserable where I am. Damp, been raining, stopped now, but so what? You're not going to risk going out in it. I hope the weather's better where you are. I hope you're back plenty of winners and I hope you have a good weekend. And we'll hopefully be back next week.
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
All right.
Speak soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take it easy. See you soon. Bye-bye now.
Post Racing, the site for winners.